Hey, what's up everyone? Today we're taking a look at an absolutely massive CPU air cooler. It's the Scythe Ninja 5. Let's hope that its massive size can deliver equally massive performance. Let's check it out. The Ninja 5 comes packed securely in a cardboard box along with everything that you need to get it up and running, including an instruction booklet, motherboard backplate, brackets and hardware, wire fan clips, Scythe's own branded thermal paste, a full-size screwdriver, fan splitter cable, and two K's Flex 120mm PWM fans. Not including the fans, the Ninja 5 measures 130 by 130 millimeters and stands about 155 millimeters tall. Add on the two fans and that length increases to about 180 millimeters, and the total weight including the two fans comes in at just under 1,200 grams. It's fully compatible with AMD's FM and AM sockets and every desktop Intel socket since LGA 775, which means it's probably going to be pretty hard to find a CPU socket that doesn't work with the Ninja 5. The maximum memory clearance is 55 millimeters, which is pretty good, so memory compatibility is probably not going to be a huge issue with this cooler, but there is a bit of a conflict with the fan mounting position depending on how tall your memory modules are, and I'll talk about that in further detail when we get into the installation process for the cooler. The cold plate's made from nickel-plated copper and looks super smooth and reflective. Heat gets transferred from the plate to the heatsink through six 6mm diameter nickel-plated heat pipes, and the top of the cooler's finished with a nice black anodized top plate. Overall, I gotta say, this is one nice looking air cooler, and that's important for a cooler that's this big because there's just no way to not see it in your build. Moving air through the cooler is done using dual K's Flex 120mm fans mounted in a push-pull configuration. They come with fluid dynamic bearings for a long lifespan, and they're also fitted with these nice rubber shock-absorbing corners to prevent any kind of vibration. They have a PWM controlled speed range of 300 to 800 RPM, an airflow range of 16 to 43 CFM, and a super low noise rating of just 4 to 14.5 decibels, which as far as I'm concerned is pretty much silent. To get this thing installed, we first need to place the backplate onto the back side of the CPU socket and then secure it into place using the included spacers. Next up are the mounting brackets that get fastened tightly by 4 screws right down onto the CPU socket. Next up is the application of thermal paste onto the integrated heat spreader of the CPU, and just so you know, I'm using Arctic Silver 5 for this test, and that's just for consistency with the other CPU cooler reviews that I've done on my channel. There's no reason that you can't use the included stuff that comes with the cooler directly from Scythe. I have used it and tested it in the past, and it's very similar to the performance that I get with Arctic Silver 5, so you don't have to worry about using any type of aftermarket thermal paste if you don't want to. Now we can lower the cooler onto the CPU and tighten it down using the included screwdriver. And finally, the two 120mm fans just clip onto the heatsink using the wire mounting clips. Now I want to circle back to the topic of memory clearance. With these Corsair Vengeance Pro modules installed in all 4 DIMM slots that you can see right here, it does cause a bit of a conflict with this fan installation point. It causes it to have to be mounted a little bit higher up on the cooling tower than it would if you used lower profile memory modules. That said, I don't think it's impacting performance in any significant way. Perhaps a little bit though, because some of the airflow from the fan is not going through the cooling fins. But I think at the end of the day, it's probably still going to work just fine, but it's something to keep in mind if you really want to make sure you're getting the most out of this cooler. You're going to want to make sure you're going with memory modules that are well below that 55mm maximum clearance. Vengeance Pro comes in at 51mm and it does conflict with that memory a little bit. Swapping those out for Trident Z series modules though, and everything kind of fit a lot better. So keep that in mind when you're selecting memory to work with the Ninja 5. For the performance testing, I'm using an Intel Core i9 9900K CPU in an Asus Z390 ROG Strix motherboard with 32GB of DDR4 at 3600 MHz and a GTX 1080 Ti. The Ninja 5 delivers strong performance in these gaming tests, easily cooling the 9900K at stock and when overclocked to 5.1 GHz. Manually setting the fans to their max speed does increase performance over the automatic PWM controls. So if you don't mind setting the fan speed manually, you should be able to squeeze out just a little extra performance. With the synthetic benchmarks, the performance is good, but those low RPM fans are starting to show some limitations when pushing the CPU to 5.1 GHz, where temperatures spiked over 90 degrees Celsius for a short duration during the Cinebench R20 test. Unlike the gaming test though, there's no real advantage to using max fan speeds over PWM when overclocking in these tests, and that's because the thermal load is just so high that the fans are ramping up to their max speeds anyway, even under PWM control. And here's where the Ninja 5 really stands out. This thing is barely audible, even with the fans running at 100% of their rated performance, topping out at less than 30 decibels when measured at a distance of 30 centimeters or 1 foot, making the Ninja 5 the quietest CPU cooler that I've ever used. Unless you can physically see the fan spinning, you might not even know that it's running. It's seriously that quiet. At first glance, you might look at the Ninja 5 and expect the absolute best in terms of raw cooling performance just because of its sheer size. But what we really have is a good performing cooler that trades a little bit in terms of cooling performance for an ultra low noise profile. Topping out at just under 30 decibels, this thing is whisper quiet, and I think that's going to make it a very attractive option for system builders that are really interested in keeping noise levels down. At an MSRP of just about $60 US, it offers a pretty good value. It's a good balance of cooling performance and low noise levels, and I think that makes it a really attractive option. And much like every other Scythe cooler I've ever gotten my hands on, it just feels well made, well built, and solid. I think it's going to last for years to come. The purchasing links are right down in the description of this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, and we'll see you in the next video. See ya.